Welcome to the Creepin' It Real Show, your one-stop shop for weird news, movie reviews, otherworldly, and paranormal shenanigans. We'll take a dive into what's going on in creepy pop culture. You can follow Creepin' It Real Show on Twitter at creepin_it. You can email us at creepinitrealshow@gmail.com. And you can also go to our website, creepinitshow.com. Welcome to Creepin' It Real, our first show of 2019. For those of us who jumped, slid, or limped across the finish line of 2018, we'll get to try it all again, hopefully, for 2019. You know, it's a great day here in Atlanta. It's the first day of the playoffs, and unfortunately, my Atlanta Falcons are not in it. But for the most part, I anticipate a great playoff season. I'm a big NFL fan, so this is a great time of year for me. And speaking of great times of the year, we're getting this podcast jumped off, and I'm going to bring in my co-host, Moni from the great state of California. How are you doing?
Hello, Creepers and Yardley and Christy. Happy 2019, everyone. Definitely feeling you on the limpin'. I have had a sinus infection, and yes, I'm a dipshit for 5 full weeks, and I'm just coming to the other end of that. I threw my back out yesterday because also I'm getting old. So just one thing after another. And I know I had promised the Black Dahlia show upon our return, and that will be coming next week. I have fallen into a rabbit hole. First of all, huge shout out to Hollywood and Crime podcast. It's on the Wondering Network. Their show is amazing, but I am 26 episodes in the last 2 weeks on their extensive coverage of not only the Black Dahlia herself, but the up to 16 other women who went missing within the same about 2-year time frame that the Black Dahlia went missing. And I just feel like, since I didn't know about all the other mutilation murders that were just as bad and still unsolved, just like the Dahlias that happened within months of hers, I feel like the rabbit holes I've gone down, it's time to do some real justice to the stories of all those women. So that's kind of where I'm at with falling through rabbit holes. But I promise a comprehensive show delivered to y'all next week.
I'm excited. I got lots of questions.
Yeah,
It's been crazy. I've read 3 books, watched 4 documentaries, 26 podcasts. I've really gone into it with this one, and I hope it shows in our next episode.
Okay, well, that's what's up. Christy, you got your sea legs on?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. Do I? I don't know. I don't fucking know. I'm trying. I went out of town for almost 2 weeks over the holidays. Big mistake. I wish I just stayed home with my dog, but I didn't. So I'm still trying to acclimate. I think I spent the entire time not knowing what day it was. We did go to the Winter Classic, so that was freaking awesome. It was really cold, though. So Blackhawks did not win, so that was a bummer, but what you gonna do? Otherwise, I'm doing well, getting back to work and trying to get my shit together. So I had a reasonably good holiday season. Next year, we're just going to take a cruise or some shit because 2 weeks with family is way too long.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's what's up. You know, and today we're going to ease into 2019 talking a little Bird Box, as well as talking about some of the most anticipated releases of 2019 as far as horror movies or TV shows. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll also discuss what are our personal most anticipated things that we look forward to in 2019. It looks like 2019 is going to be a year where the theater is going to have to be hit up at least 6 times, you know, for a lot of horror and thrillers that are coming out. So I'm very excited about that. But before we dive in, let's go ahead and knock out some weird news. So I think what we should do for 2019 is jump it off from the West Coast with Moni. Now, I don't think I've sent 159,000 texts in my life.
To anyone ever.
Yeah, exactly, or to everyone. So tell us about this woman who sent that many texts after what was it, just one date?
Yeah, so... Yeah, and then her picture, I posted this to our Facebook page, I think yesterday, so creepers, feel free to partake in looking at this. She's actually kind of a cute woman. She's wearing no makeup in her mugshot and everything, but she's pretty cute, except for she's got the crazy eyes, and she allegedly sent 159,000 texts after a single date and threatened to make sushi out of a man's kidneys. So this happened in Paradise Valley, Arizona. She was accused of bombarding him with 65,000 text messages after a single date, and is now believed to have sent twice that amount, more than twice that amount. According to the court documents obtained by the Arizona Republic, then 31-year-old Jacqueline Addis of Phoenix sent the victim more than 159,000 texts, many of them threatening, over a 10-month period starting in July 2017. I'd wear your fascia in the top of your skull, in your hands and feet. One of the alleged texts read, wow. I'd make sushi out of your kidneys and chopsticks out of your hand bones, according to. She's lovely. Addis told investigators they met on a site called Luxy, so we know where to avoid. Sorry, Luxy, which advertises that it can connect users with verified millionaires. Well, there's your first problem. In July 2017, she was found parked outside of the victim's Paradise Valley home, police have said. They found her still outside the victim's home when they arrived and told her to leave. Shortly after, the man started receiving the threatening text messages from the suspect. This all seems fine. So they couldn't locate her when when they received a similar report in December. And then by April, the victim called the detective a third time, saying he was out of the country, but that she was in his home while he was checking his surveillance video. Jesus, in his home. That is next level. When the officers arrived, she was taking a bath. Body camera video obtained in public records request allegedly shows her telling the officer, I guess that I made up the whole scenario in my head where I live here, so I came here and pretended that that's what was happening. A large butcher knife was also discovered on the passenger seat of her car, and she was taken into custody and charged with trespassing. No shit. Her arrest record that she had showed signs of mental illness. Do you think? So she also sent some messages after being released from jail saying that harm may come to him. Less than 3 weeks later, she called the authorities. Oh, the victim called the authorities. She doesn't give up. Receiving multiple threatening text messages. He explained that they met on a dating website, blah, 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 harassing messages. She sent the victim 500 text messages to him in one day. Don't ever try to leave me. I'll kill you, and I don't want to be a murderer.
Jesus Christ.
So, yeah, she is being held without bond, thank goodness, in Maricopa County Jail after pleading not guilty. Well, I feel like the evidence is against you in that, and her trial begins in February.
Oh, man. Talk about, basically you're giving the police all of the evidence that they need to, to kind of put you away or whatever. But over the course of time, did it say how many days or whatever it took her to send all of these texts? Like, what was it? Like over a month or something? Or?
So she sent the first 500 and within the first 24 hours after their date.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Wow.
it didn't really explain. It said that it sent like half that many, but then it might have been twice as many. I don't know if she sent it from a different phone or something like that. But yeah, it wasn't super clear on that. But it's concerning. We need to do a full mental health screening before you go on a blind date, apparently.
Well, definitely committed. And, I had actually read about this story when it first came out, and then I totally forgot about it. And then when you put it in the show notes, I was like, am I having deja vu? But I remember reading it, and I didn't thoroughly go through the article, really thorough. But I just thought that's pretty ridiculous. I think I would have probably changed my number, long before. All of that happened. But Christy, is that something that would totally bug you out?
I would fucking pack my shit up and get the hell out of Dodge, join the witness relocation program, something like that. Hell no. I had a stalker and it was nothing like that, and it scared the shit out of me. So I can't imagine that happening. Hell no. No.
She just wants to bathe in your blood and wear your body parts on herself. That's fine, I think.
I had a dude. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that like this is a movie where you definitely need more backstory on this on this
Yeah.
what's gone on in the past. I'm pretty sure that somebody else is probably going to come out and say, yeah, you know what I'm saying, she's not really there, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, but even though that's an unnerving encounter, let's talk about another one, Christy.
Yeah.
Is there some type of an online thread where
Yeah.
people are revealing fucked up shit they've happened?
I thought some of these were pretty good. I was reading them on the way home from Chicago and kept it just for my weird news. It's a Reddit article thread that opened up, I think it was like 4 or 5 days ago, and they were revealing their most unnerving encounters of all time. And I picked out 3 I thought were pretty creepy. I also went on the thread because this is an article from the Daily Mail that showcases some of their top ones. But then I went over there and read the other ones, and it's pretty interesting read if you guys enjoy reading that kind of crazy shit like I do. It definitely gave me the creeps reading all of them. Here's the 3 that on this article that I thought on the article were pretty good. This first one is from... these usernames are very hard to pronounce. Citus Pindle. Anyway, I was on vacation in Ithaca with my boyfriend at the time. We had literally, I'm talking 10 minutes, just gotten into town and stopped at a suspension bridge near Cornell's campus. I'm terrified of heights, and so my boyfriend was coaxing me step by step over the bridge. It was gorgeous, and we stopped at the middle to take a picture. On the side we had come from, there was a parking lot with steps leading to the bottom of the gorge, but on the far side, there were hiking paths with no barrier. A woman walked past us and offered to take a picture of us. We declined, and she smiled and walked quickly to the far side of the bridge, where she smoothly jumped off into the gorge. There was not a second of hesitation. It was almost like she expected the path to keep going. The sound of a person hitting the ground from a jump like that sticks with you. Ugh, no, thank you. That reminds me of that one story we read where that kid was at the hospital grounds and that dude jumped off the roof and like landed right beside him, and he was like on his way to get ice cream, and I was like, yeah. Anyway, here's another one from Once Off Burner. When I was a kid, I saw a grown-up lady with half her head missing lying on the ground in a pool of blood. Apparently, an argument broke out between the lady and a man who happened to be carrying a shovel. Argument escalated. The man with the shovel took a swing, and the aftermath was truly horrendous. Yeah, that'd probably stick with you.
Yeah, a little bit.
This one's crazy. Yeah, okay, this one's really crazy. Runit02 says, when we were kids, we found the body of a young woman under a busy bridge. We approached her slowly to see if she was okay. As we neared, she opened her eyes to reveal the greatest contrast of red and blue eyes I'd ever seen. We ran screaming to a payphone to call 911. We went back to the bridge and asked the paramedics if she was going to be okay. They said she's been dead for at least a day.
Nope.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that's taking it back to some Halloween level shit.
No kidding.
Just kind of scrolling through these examples, it seems like you'll get lost in this thread. It's just so many people are posting now.
Well, yeah, because somebody will comment, and then they'll comment about their experiences underneath that, and then the next comment, and then those experiences. It's a huge thread, but I had 11 hours to burn because we were coming home from Chicago, so I got through quite a few.
We need to use this for a future drunk horror story.
Yeah, totally.
Read all these.
We will. We'll serve it up for sure.
Well, there's definitely a lot of content there now. As we know, over the last week, Netflix released Bird Box, and it's been something that's been garnering a lot of buzz, especially online. It's very visible. It seems to be something that a lot of people are talking about. I think it trended a couple of different times since it came out. And I see that Moni, you actually had a post from someone who worked with the digital and special effects of what the creature would look like. And it's kind of interesting because when I look at it, I'm like, how can this thing cause so much ruckus? Is it just one? It's got to be a ton of them. And actually, the design in itself is pretty surprising. After looking at the prosthetics and the digital work, I'm almost happy that we didn't get to see it.
Yeah, I agree. And I'll post this to our Facebook page so that creepers can weigh in. But honestly, first of all, and I think it was Christy that we've talked about this before, how there's nothing really scarier than your imagination. Sometimes what you don't see is so much more impactful as far as horror than what you do get to see. And as many questions went unanswered in Bird Box that I would like to have answers to, definitely I was okay, I think, with not seeing the creatures. And now that I've seen what their plan was for the creatures, sorry to the actor that had to go into that prosthetic and do all that work and end up not be getting any screen time, but it's not that good. And I actually also posted a video from Nerdist with my spirit animal, Miss Jessica Chobot, also of Bizarre States podcast fame, if you're looking for a great podcast. But she was talking about how Sandra Bullock, every time that this monster would be on screen, Sandra Bullock couldn't help but laugh. Like, it would make her break character, and she would start laughing, and she would say, like, this is not going to be, very impactful to the audience to be scared of this thing. It's just funny. And it does. It looks like a ugly ass baby. I don't even know. It's all veiny and it's creepy. It's off-putting. Like, if you saw somebody like that in real life, you'd be like, oh, poor person. But it doesn't look anything like that. What I forget the character's name was drawing in the shadows, like how he was doing the line work and everything.
Yeah.
It doesn't look anything like any of those things. So I'm personally also glad that they didn't post this or that they didn't use this in the film. Christy, what do you think about it?
I can't see the picture. I think I've seen it before. The way you described it, it
bald,
definitely,
veiny baby.
Yeah, yeah. And here's the thing: like, a lot of people saw their relatives, like they were like,
it looks like that granddad dancing in those Six Flags commercials.
Yeah.
Okay, I have
does.
seen it then. Oh, the
Yeah.
picture underneath. Okay, it's on the next page. Sorry. Yeah, it does look like, you're absolutely right. It does look like the granddad from Six Flags.
Not
yeah.
effective.
But now my question is this, because a lot of people saw their relatives or some of them were talking to people that were dead. Remember?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that also confused me. I thought it was supposed to show you the most sad or emotionally impactful thing that you ever happened to you, which I think, like, for instance, I'm assuming that, like, her sister towards the beginning when she crashed the car, like, I think she saw their parents and said, don't leave me, and, like, went after them and got herself killed.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it was supposed to be. So that's why I was also confused, like, why is it a physical thing? Or maybe you look into its eyes and it shows you something. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like John Malkovich's wife, I can't remember his character's name. We're going to be talking about Bird Box later, so we can get into this more. But remember his wife who went out to help Sandra Bullock saw her mom or something and got hit by the car or whatever, or ran into the fire or whatever the hell. And he was like, that's not possible. Her mom's been dead for 5 years or whatever it was. But anyway, yeah, that's confusing to me. I'm glad they didn't show it. I think it's, first of all, that's not scary. But second of all, I like not being able to see it. I think that was like the whole creepy, crazy part of it is you can't see the monster and you don't know what it is and you don't know what's going on. And to figure out, you have to just blindfold yourself. I mean, that was kind of a cool way to do that. So that's my opinion. Anyway.
And also, if they were like little creatures that looked like this, you would think, of course, it would have to be a shitload of them. And Moni had posted something along the lines of different questions that people have after watching Bird Box. Yeah, so I think if you did have this creature, you're like, well, how did it get from Europe, to the United States? And actually, where was this? Like, what state was this in? Did they say? Like, where were they in the U.S.? I just have no clue.
Talk amongst yourselves. I will Google it real quick.
I want to say it was Chicago. I can't be or Seattle.
It was a major city, yeah.
Yeah, it was a major city.
Okay. It was just, well, I guess we'll get into this.
It actually was shot in California. I don't know if that was supposed to be where it was set in the movie, but it was shot in California in October 2017. Wilderness scenes were shot on the Smith River in the far northern part of the state, and the house exterior is from Monrovia, and the final scene was at Scripps College.
They were in California because they were having conversations about where they were from. And she was saying she was from here, and he was saying he was from there, and then he was saying maybe we would have known each other and all that. And anyway, yeah, it was
Ooh.
California. I remember
The
that.
house is available to go visit, and it's kind of in my neck of the
Ooh,
woods.
go
I'm
do
kind
it.
of down for
Go
that.
do it. That's a cool
Yeah.
house, man.
Well, ironically, I
Yeah.
saw an article that the people who are around that house are hating that everybody's like
I'm
coming to
sure.
the
Yeah.
house. Yeah, it's probably been a whirlwind for them. Okay, well, let's talk about some horror movies and TV shows that are going to be coming out in 2019. Now, Netflix has been, every year they kind of find their groove. And I know a lot of people knock that a certain amount of stuff that's on it is stuff that's, kind of weak. In a way, to me, that's part of the beauty of it, because sometimes you do need guilty pleasure things that you watch on these different streaming services. But on January the 25th, Kingdom, which is a Korean-based, basically a zombie movie. So the synopsis is set at an unspecified point in the 5 centuries that make up Korea's Joseon dynasty, one of the most culturally influential periods of Korean history. Kingdom, directed by Kim Sung-hoon, follows a young prince struggling to deal with the passing of his father, except his father hasn't exactly passed because he's risen from the dead, something being kept from the prince and Korea at large until the inevitable happens, throwing the kingdom into chaos as it deals with the startlingly rapid hordes of the Walking Dead. Now, there have been 2 trailers released for this. Both of them are pretty cool. Have either of you had a chance to check them out? And if so, what'd you think?
I don't think I have seen the trailer for this.
Oh.
And once again, you're educating me on new things here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I haven't
it's,
seen it either.
I actually think in a previous podcast, I had brought this up. Well, essentially, the people who are making this, I mean, look, Korea brought us Train to Busan, and I think that some of the people are working on this as well. So I have a lot of confidence that I'll like this series. At the same time, even if it sucks, I definitely think that this will probably be a guilty pleasure watch as well. But if you like Train to Busan and kind of like the way that they handle the zombie genre, you're going to be getting a lot of that, except set, just way earlier in history. So whenever you get a chance, definitely check out those trailers, both of you. I'm going to make sure that I get it posted on the Facebook page as well. So that'll be something that's fun to watch. And, Train to Busan was really good to me just because of the uniqueness of how they try to tackle the zombie genre. So I think that it'll be that, except on steroids and a lot cooler. Now, for those of you who have kind of held on to, with The Walking Dead, under new showrunner Angela Kang, the series is going to come back from its mid-season hiatus on February the 10th. There are a lot of people who are excited because I think you still hung with the show, right, Moni?
Yeah, again, as I've mentioned many times, my abusive relationship with that show. I actually now kind of hate watch it. I watch it and I heckle. I'm like, that would never happen. They'd all be dead. That's stupid. Why would they do that? And now I was excited for the change of pace that Angela brought and was going to bring. And I was actually at the panel where her, being at the helm was actually announced. And she talked very vaguely, of course, without spoilers, about her plans for the show. But so far, it's a completely different show. And I've mentioned that again in the past, is they've taken away almost all of the characters that we loved in the beginning. And I get a show like that, characters are going to die. That's how that works. That's how it works in the comics. But at the same time, it literally from one episode to the next turned into almost a completely different show because it fast forwarded 5 years, all new characters, new settings, new everything. And so I didn't necessarily consent to, if I was going to consent to watching another show in that universe, it would be, the other Walking Dead spinoff. They should have called it a spinoff is all I'm saying. It has none of the same vibe as the original. So I feel like actually it would be a decent time if you actually were one of the few people that haven't watched the show to start it anew and see if you like it. But for those of us who have been there for the whole ride, it's just not really the same vibe anymore.
Well, with Fear the Walking Dead, for a while, since it came out, and I think it's going into its, 3rd season now, or is it 4th season?
Yeah.
It's the third season. I
Yes.
watched the first two seasons. I didn't watch the last season, and I read about some things that happened in it. And like the two characters that were mainly the reasons why I was watching it in the first couple of seasons apparently got bumped off. So it
Yeah.
totally, killed my desire to even watch that season at all. But I also saw some articles recently about potentially another character that's currently on The Walking Dead also going into that universe, teaming
Yeah.
up with Lenny James.
Yeah, it looks like that's going to happen. And again, too, that was another thing is just the characters they didn't kill, they sent to the other show. And it's just like, what are you trying to say about the quality of this show anymore and your commitment to these characters? Or, I'm ready for more backstory into the world, some more answers into the actual zombie apocalypse. Like, we still have no idea or even begin to solve a mystery of how it happened or what could be done about it in the future. It's just more of the same. It's literally just people finding new conflicts with other living humans, fighting them off, and then moving on to a new location and having the same thing happen again and again. It's really kind of just beating a dead horse at this point, in my opinion.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess before we move on to the next one, you have to say, even in this universe, I think that they were, Robert Kirkman was saying that it was supposed to be, when all of this jumped off, it was 10,000 zombies or something like that for every one person that was living. And, if they wanted to make it basically how humans are going to survive against other humans in an apocalyptic situation, just let the zombies just die off and handle that, because at this point the amount of zombies that are still around don't equate to the amount of people that are supposed to still be alive. But anyway, I don't want to really get too deep in The Walking Dead, but something else that seems to be pretty exciting, if you like Jordan Peele, if you like to Get Out, he's dipping his toe back into horror with Us, which is going to come out on March the 15th. I checked out the first trailer. I thought that it was interesting. I don't know if everything that they were saying is sometimes you can be your own worst enemy, but I do think that part of that is probably a theme. But when I saw the trailer, certain things that I had in my mind about what it was going to be about totally got thrown out the window. I thought the trailer was pretty effective, and I look forward to seeing it. So, Christy, have you checked out that trailer yet?
Yeah, I did. I agree with you. I thought it was going to be about one thing, and then I saw the trailer, and it's not. I'm still excited about it. I'm not quite sure what it's about. I was a little confused when I saw the trailer, but that makes me almost even more excited because I'm all about introducing some new shit into horror, because sometimes we do, get a lot of repeat stuff. So he definitely changed things with his first horror, so I'm up for whatever he's going to bring us this time.
That's what's up. Hey, Moni, when you saw it, did it kind of catch you off guard? I mean, as I mentioned when I first brought up the release of this movie, I was talking about maybe you're your own worst enemy. Did neither of you even got that vibe to maybe that was something that they were inching towards?
Yeah, I think so. And I think Jordan Peele, for his own movies, really goes with kind of that theme of kind of a social commentary or a commentary on self is half the horror, not just the actual act of someone who's murdering someone or whatever else the monster ends up being. I think that he always kind of has a little bit of more thoughtful commentary. And that's why I'm actually looking forward to this also as just a precursor to the upcoming Candyman film that he's doing in 2020, just to kind of see, okay, so he came in strong with, Get Out. And we'll see, can his sophomore film live up to that and therefore increase my happy anticipation for Candyman?
Yeah, I think I heard somebody had a theory that was saying the little boy in this movie ended up being, what's that character's name in Get Out? The one that was at the one in Sorry to Bother You. That guy. Did y'all hear like a theory about that or something? I don't know where this sits in the timeline. But,
are you talking about the guy that was like had the hat and he was the
Lakeith Stanfield? I think that's his name or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, but that dude. Yeah, but anyway, there's already a ton of different theories. I don't think that we even know if they're connected at all or where it would be in a certain timeline. But it seems to be pretty interesting. Now let's talk about Stephen King and the trillions of movies that have been based off of his property. The new Pet Cemetery, which will be out on April 15th. We actually talked about that trailer in previous podcasts. I thought it looked kind of solid, but you never really know what you're going to get. When people try to, reinvent something. But it's definitely a curiosity that we'll have to check out and talk about. Now, for me, Child's Play comes out on June the 21st. Then you've got It Chapter 2 on September the 6th.
Jessica Chastain's Revenge.
Yeah, exactly. The reason why I paused is like I was trying to think up something Jessica Chastain related before I brought it up, but that's on September the 6th. Now, I don't know about every movie release that's going to be going on every month for 2019, but I feel like a lot of these movies where their placement is, I think a lot of these people might have strategically placed these movies for the spring just for reasons of maybe not having as much competition. I'll probably have to do a little bit of research just to see what's coming out very close to all of these release dates of the movies. But I think that it is going to be pretty safe in September. It's actually probably one of my most anticipated, but we'll kind of get into that right after this. But I think the positioning of all these movies and how they're spread apart, I think all of them have a chance to kind of stand on their own and do well. So we'll see what's going on in that front.
I think also, horror genre in general is pretty tight as far as movie theaters, because these days, we always talk about how expensive it is to go to the movies, and if you want to pay to go to a movie and you're anywhere between young adult to adulthood, you want it to either be one of these epic Lord of the Rings, huge drama, I don't know what you would call that type of genre, or a horror or something. It needs to be worth the money. Nobody just goes to the movies and pays $40 these days for fun. It needs to be a movie that you're like, I want to see this on the big screen. I want there to be booms or monsters or, majestic, sparkling elves or whatever the hell it is that's going to be in the movie. Whereas just normal movies that are feel good movies, I don't think they're getting what they used to get, like a Forrest Gump. They're just not, to me, movie worthy. I'll wait. But there are movies that I want to see on the big screen, and horror movies is one of those. And I think that is great for horror and as far as the institution itself. And as long as they keep these spread out and give each horror movie its due process, I think it will continue to flourish that way. I would hope that that's also what they're doing, is they don't want to release a whole bunch of horrors all, in one weekend and compete with each other when there's really no need. If they all kind of set themselves, apart a little bit, they're all going to, we can all enjoy and share in the wealth instead of competing against each other.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and just talk about what our most anticipated things of 2019 are as far as horror, thrillers, movies, or TV shows. So for me, we discussed it a little bit earlier, Netflix's Kingdom. I definitely look forward to that series because, once again, Korea brought us Train to Busan, and this being a series that's set in 1392 Korea seems to be an interesting backdrop to develop a series that's revolving around the undead. Us, just wondering what it's about. Child's Play. I'm definitely excited to see what a somewhat new take on the franchise is going to be. I actually hope that it does really well. I think that they have an opportunity to do something that can't possibly be worse than other entries that have been in the series. And, horror in the movies is pretty hot right now. So I definitely think that's a great opportunity to bring back the character of Chucky. And then, of course, It Chapter 2. I just want to see if they can close everything out very strong, especially the third act and things that go on at the end of the book. I'm really curious at how they handle it. I do think that they'll change things up. Yeah, exactly. I do think that they might change things up, but I don't know. Let's just hope that they're not that it's not worse than the first one. So if they
Yeah.
break even, I'll probably be satisfied. So, Christy, what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, I am currently watching all the Game of Thrones seasons. I have never done that. Its final season's coming up. I'm super
I'm
excited.
so
I think
excited.
it's happening this year, right? Shit, it seems like it's been
Yeah.
forever. I will literally
April.
crawl in a hole and die if I find out we have to wait any longer. It's crazy now going back and rewatching everything because I've never done that. I've only watched one episode of each show, and all the foreshadowing in the even just the first season is shocking to me. Like how much of a fucking genius do you have to be to write a book and then know what's going to happen that many books later enough to like that to me is absolutely I just can't even wrap my brain around it. Amazing to me. And so enjoying that. I know that's not horror, but I love Game of Thrones. It's probably one of the best shows to me, in my opinion, ever created. So I'll be sad to see it go, but I hope they do it right and end it the right way. And maybe there'll be some spinoffs that are decent and go from there. But
Well, you say I don't think I'm sad to see it go. I love it when a show knows when to get out of its own
exactly.
way,
Yeah.
and
That's why
that's
I'm
one of the
like,
problems.
okay.
Yeah,
But
that's one of
no.
the problems Walking Dead has. They
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
when to.
Yeah, I quit
Yeah,
watching Walking Dead
yeah.
at season 5. I couldn't do it anymore. It was just too I want monsters in Walking Dead. I want zombies. There's not enough zombies in it. I think if they did a balance of yes, people are monsters, but zombies are also monsters. So, where are the zombies? Sorry, but they only pull the zombies in when they want like an epic kill. Like bring
Yeah.
them in and bring in rally, they need to be fighting that too. Otherwise they're just kind of in the background. So they lost me, and I was a huge Walking Dead fan for the first 3 seasons, and then it just kind of went, and then it was like a mercy project for a while, and then I just kind of and when I forget about it, I'm not going to force it anymore. So I just dropped it. So definitely Game of Thrones. Godzilla. I was not aware of Godzilla until we talked about this. I think it was the last show. I'm
All the
excited,
monsters.
totally excited about Godzilla. I
Yep.
think in the day and age we're in right now, all these monster movies are just in their prime because
It's
we
gonna
have
be rad.
so
Yeah.
many good special effects and everything. They can really do it right. And so I'm anxious to see another one. I thought the last one was really good. I just watched again right before the show the Pet Cemetery trailer because it's been in the back of my mind, and I was kind of going through, to make my list. It looks really good. Again, I think they've got a better budget this time around. They can do it better. They can go. Hopefully, they've spoken with Stephen King and maybe gotten some of his opinions and feedback on it. It looks really good. It is definitely scared me more than the first one just watching the trailer. So it can't get any. It's got to get better. Let's hope. Another one I watched, which I have not heard of, and I'm interested in it. I don't know. I can't. It seems like it's going to be just kind of not really the same thing, but truth or dare ish type, just that generic horror that you get. It's called Polaroid. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of it, but it's intriguing to me. A girl works in an antique shop and takes home a old camera and starts taking pictures of her friends, and they start dying. So,
I saw that. I
yeah,
love Polaroid cameras
I do
for
too.
like yeah, they're kind of fun. So I think that's a neat concept
Yeah.
anyway. It'll probably be a dumb movie, but I'll definitely watch it anyway.
Yeah, I mean the way they handle it, it doesn't seem like there's all this what's happening like half the show, and then it gets crazy. It seems like from the very beginning, these people are smart enough to figure out shit's going down, and there's some interestingly weird things that happen when they try to destroy the pictures, and the creature is pretty crazy looking or freaky looking as far as it's like I don't know. It looks like a shadow person, but a creepy ass one, and then it like changes. But anyway, it looks good. So I am holding out hope that that it will be good. And I have others, but I'm going to let Moni talk about them because she made her list first, and I don't want to take all her her picks from her, but I
Don't steal my
concur.
thunder.
I concur with every single one of the ones Moni lists too. So go for it.
Well, I also concur with yours. As we mentioned, Godzilla, he's fighting other monsters in this one. So I'm really looking forward to finally seeing that. Polaroid does look interesting. Game of Thrones, the final season, it does start in April. And each episode, there's only a few episodes left, but they're going to be almost feature length, between 90 minutes and 2 hours, is what I'm hearing. And I'm quite excited. And I actually posted a meme on my own, I think it was my Twitter. I'm actually using Twitter, y'all. But Avengers Endgame, obviously, the sequel to the Avengers Infinity War is coming. I know it's not horror, but at the same time as Game of Thrones will be ending. And so the meme was Game of Thrones fans and Marvel movie fans shaking hands about how their world is basically ending in 2019. So that's going to be an epic year for things like that. Zombieland 2, I like Zombieland a lot. I feel like who doesn't like it? I'm a Shaun of the Dead girl all the way, though. That one's my favorite, if I had to pick. Christy, was it you or maybe it was Katie who we went to the Winchester Mystery Mansion with, who said that that Zombieland was their favorite of zombie movies? Okay,
that's me. Yeah, I love Zombieland. That's my go-to. Like whenever I have, and I also like, and it's super cheesy, but I just love that movie Warm Bodies, which is also a zombie movie. When I have I'm sitting in bed and I'm not doing anything, or it's raining, or I'm not feeling good, I have 3 horror movies that are kind of my closet movies that I watch when I am not doing anything or feel like watching a horror movie. One of them is Zombieland, one of them is Warm Bodies, and the other one is Cloverfield. I don't know why I love that movie, but I love it. And so
yeah, me too. I like it.
Those are my 3 go-tos. So Zombieland is my favorite. I did watch Shaun of the Dead just the other day because it's been a while since I've seen it.
One. Yeah.
And I do love it. The humor in it just kills me because I love British humor, and they did it so well. And so it's up there too, but it's not my go-to. Zombieland is definitely one of my go-tos.
Yeah, so the second one is anticipated, excited. I'm sorry, Yardley, did I interrupt you, or are you excited for Zombieland 2?
Oh, yeah, I'm all about it. I wasn't jumping in. I was actually trying to hit mute.
I hope yours works better than mine.
Yeah. Right.
Mine apparently isn't working, and I'm over here hacking up a lung while y'all are talking. Sorry, everybody.
It's like texting. I'm like, P.S. Everyone can hear you hacking up your lung.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to edit that out either because I'm on the same track as you guys. So y'all are just going to get to hear me here hawking up a loogie the whole time.
Enjoy.
Sorry. Anyway, moving on.
Pet Sematary is up there. I'm excited for it because that was a movie that I watched as a kid, the original, and it could have been so much better, but it scared the shit out of me at that age, but it definitely could have been better upon rewatching now as an adult. So I'm hoping they'll do good things with it. I kind of am afraid to get hopeful about it because just because they do a good job with it does not mean that Pet Sematary is going to follow suit, but we'll see.
I am totally ready for them, for every single person that's ever tried to touch a Stephen King movie to redeem themselves now, because hopefully they will have the budget and the ability with special effects to really make those things happen. I would love to see a remake of Christine. I would love to see a remake of Langoliers and Tommyknockers because they were all just, Christine was good for its time. It scared me when I was a kid. I think they can do even better now. And dear God, Langoliers and Tommyknockers were a joke. Yeah. And I was so disappointed. I loved those books. And so it's so just maddening to see the shit they make with movies. So I'm giving
Cujo
y'all a challenge. Oh, I watched Cujo the other day, and I was like, I remember being so freaking scared in that movie when I was a kid, but now it's like there's just so much. We've grown and evolved so much with horror that some movies just do not stand the test of time, and that was one of them. I'm open for them to tackle them all.
We could do Misery again, and we could have it starring the lady from Arizona who keeps sending all these texts.
Well, speaking of Cujo and the way things are nowadays, do you think that somebody could put out Cujo, could like remake Cujo, and it'd just be too much butthurtness?
People are
All
more
right.
mad about dogs
Yeah.
getting killed than humans, and I'm right there with them. So I feel it. But yeah, you can't beat the crap out of a dog, even if it's an evil dog, because that's inhumane. And yeah, I don't think it would work,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Maybe if they
Yeah.
made it a shark. Apparently, it's okay if it's a shark. Maybe they
Yeah,
A
of
just
course.
changed it
shark.
to another dog.
Well,
Well, let's go ahead and talk about the hot thing that's kind of on
oh,
the
wait,
stove.
she's not done yet. Hold on. Finish
Oh,
up.
I got Happy Death Day to
Yes.
you.
Can't
And if
wait.
y'all
Can't
haven't
wait.
seen the first Happy Death Day, like stop what you're doing,
Loved
come
it.
back to us after, but stop what you're doing and go see it. I mentioned last show, I'm afraid they're beating a dead horse with it. I'm not sure if the concept is going to hold up for a second round, but it's basically Groundhog Day with a college girl getting murdered over and over again and trying to solve it. It
I
looks like
was
this time one of the roommates is getting killed. I'm
I
not
was
sure.
pleasantly surprised with that movie. Pleasantly
That was a
surprised.
fun.
Yeah, it was
It's
great.
sweet and funny and horrific, so
Yeah, it was
I
cute.
recommend it.
is it on
Wholeheartedly.
Netflix or no?
It was on Netflix, so I hope it still is, but it definitely was a couple
Worth
months ago. and it was
definitely worth
good
a watch. Yeah,
Okay.
And the
definitely.
college girl is hot too, so I mean,
Yeah,
you
she is
know,
hot. Yeah.
good time. And then Overlord, I know it's not coming out in 2019, but it releases in February of 2019. We've all been excited to see it. You can't even rent it yet. So I am definitely going to rent that from home as soon as it's available, and I am excited to watch it
Me
finally.
too. Yes.
Yeah, that's what's up. I'm gonna buy it. I'm just gonna go ahead and buy it and put it
Do
on
it.
go ahead and put it on my shelf. So let's do a review of Bird Box, and I mean it should be fun. I know that there are definitely a lot of questions that can be asked, after you have watched the movie. Moni, you actually posted a link with about 19 questions. We'll
Yeah.
just kind of blow through this summary real quick, and if there are any of those that either of you want to bring up, I think as we're talking about this, we'll probably be bringing up some of these points. But Bird Box is a Netflix original, and we start off with a flash forward. A tense mother, Mallory, she's informing two unnamed children, a girl and a boy, that they'll be going on a dangerous journey down a river in a boat. She strictly instructs them not to remove their blindfolds or else they'll die. So we go a little bit back in time to 5 years earlier, where Mallory is pregnant and she gets a visit from her older sister, Jess, while painting. Before going to a routine pregnancy checkup, they briefly discuss a strange news story regarding mass suicides throughout all of Europe, particularly Romania and Russia. However, Mallory kind of dismisses the news as, irrelevant to what's going on in their lives at that moment. But while they're leaving the doctor's office, Mallory sees a woman bashing her head into a glass panel. As panic and chaos erupt throughout the city, they attempt to escape it in Jess's car. While Mallory is distracted by a ringing cell phone in the back seat, Jess briefly sees something that frightens her. Her eyes get this hazy, crazy looking black film over them, and she ends up crashing the car in an apparent attempt to harm herself, which totally comes out of nowhere. So injured and horrified, Mallory is unable to stop her sister from crashing the car. So visibly affected by what she'd seen, Jess steps in front of a large truck, killing herself. When this part of the movie, had started off, I was like, oh shit, this is something I want to get behind, because I really thought that the effects that they did to show that people had been consumed by whatever this is, I thought was pretty dope. Was that scary enough for either of you?
It was for
I
me.
liked it. Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay, because I was really confused, because at the beginning, when she's talking to these people, these kids with the blindfolds, I'm like, is she kidnapping them? What's happening? Like, I had no idea what any of this movie was about. I went into it completely blind. Anyway, and so I was completely lost at the beginning, which I loved, because I'm glad I did not know what the fuck was going on until I started to watch it, because I didn't. I'm like, what's she doing? Why is she putting? Why do they have blindfolds on? Is she kidnapping these kids? What's going on? And then of course they go back and she's pregnant, and I'm like, if that's one of her kids, she certainly wasn't treating them like one of her kids at the beginning. So I was like really confused until as the movie progresses. And then the sister. By then I kind of figured out, okay, something's happening, and it's their people are killing themselves for some reason. And then this is the first time you see that it's actually something that they see, that makes them, because that's the first clue in. So I'm starting to kind of piece things together. I can be slow at times, and I watched it literally on the way in the car on the way to Chicago. So I was a little distracted as well. I wasn't driving. So yeah, I was a little distracted, not because I was driving, but because there's kids in the car and they were killing each other in the back seat. So I was kind of off and on trying to regulate and watch the movie. But so I was beginning to kind of be like, okay, I can kind of see what's happening now. All right, I'm getting it. And I was liking it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it disorients you again with that opener of her talking to children that way with their blindfolds on. It's like, what the hell is going on? And then, the people committing suicide is so violent. And so unexpected for what you see in the opener of a film that, it kind of grabs you by the throat in the best possible way if you're a horror fan. And I enjoyed it and was excited to see what they were going to come up with next, or like what was happening. I was along for the ride right there.
Yeah, it definitely set the tone. And there are certain parallels that people try to make between this and A Quiet Place.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, to be honest with you, I think that the beginning of this movie and the way that Mallory was talking to those kids was the type of conversation that the parents in A Quiet Place should have been having with their children.
Yeah.
That's how you handle this type of situation, is really kind of enforcing all of the things that you don't do right, as opposed to in A Quiet Place. The movie starts off with parents who have been living in a dangerous situation, who are apparently incompetent on things not to do when you have children
Exactly.
walking around,
Agreed.
let alone getting pregnant. So at least I thought that the effectiveness of how a parent should probably handle kids, like, you know what I'm saying? This is not these aren't situations that you can put a kid in time out. You've got to be like, yo, you're fucking up. So anyway.
You will die.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Mallory ends up following a mob of people who are running around after the accident, and she ends up being pushed to the ground. She's rescued by a woman who is and led to a band of survivors who were hiding in a house. Although the woman sees a creature and commits suicide by entering a burning car. Yeah, that was one of the moments that really, was really messed up. Like, what do you see to make you get in a burning car? So, so as media communications go offline, the group tries to figure out what exactly has happened. One survivor named Charlie surmises that demons are the cause of this. They all concur this.
Really quick, just say something about Charlie. I fucking love him. What is his name? The actor?
I can't remember, but he has a TV show that I think's on like ABC
and
or
he was
something.
On Get Out. He works for the TSA. Motherfucking TSA. I love him. I was so happy when I saw him on here because I don't know what it is. He just adds this, I don't even know how to explain. He just adds this type of presence to movies that I love.
Well, it was funny because when we were introduced to his character and he starts rattling off all of this stuff, the audience, I mean, anybody who's watching the movie is like, how the fuck do you know all of that stuff? And then they actually had a person on the movie pretty much say what the viewers were thinking, like, how the fuck do you know all this stuff?
Right.
Even though the answer wasn't satisfactory, I thought that it was kind of...
Well, he's working in a grocery store and writing an end of the world, book. It just happened. I just thought it was hysterical. And he had all his little notes and I just loved him. I was really happy again when I saw he was in it. I literally went like, yes, I love this guy. And I need to find his name out because I loved him. He literally made Get Out for me, like made the movie. I just thought he totally stole it. He was awesome. And so when I saw him in this, I was happy to know that he's getting more work. I didn't know he was in a TV show, but if it's not horror or weird, I don't even know if I'd be interested, but I'd give it a shot.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the TV show.
It's so funny.
It's definitely going on. So all of the people who have gathered in this house, they end up...
Little Rel Howery, sorry to interrupt. Little Rel Howery and the TV show that we're talking about is not at the top of here. There's Rel, a TV series. Does that sound
I think
like
that
you've been...
that might be it. But it's something that he's the lead in, I believe.
Gotcha. Yeah,
cool.
he is.
Yeah. So a lot of the people that have gathered, they pretty much agree that simply seeing whatever it is can cause humans to go insane and commit suicide. So they end up covering up all the windows to shield themselves from everything that's going on outside, including the creatures. Greg attempts to use his house's security cameras to see outside, and he believes a digital image of the creatures will not harm him, but he's affected through looking through the cameras as well. And he ends up committing suicide, which is like, wow, like what? Yeah. This brings up just so many questions about how this crap works. It's almost like they have to do another one, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because we really, I do think that we do deserve some answers about these creatures. But as a little time goes by, of course, food starts to run out, and people get those concerns, and they have to discuss leaving the safe house. So Mallory, Charlie, and a few other survivors, Tom, Douglas, and Lucy, they decide to go to a nearby supermarket to get supplies. They black out the windows of the car. They use the car's proximity sensors and GPS to navigate their drive to the supermarket. During the drive, they encounter some creatures but manage to drive off, arriving at the store. Inside the store, Mallory finds pet birds, which she decides to adopt. Douglas ends up getting drunk and suggests that the group just stay permanently at the supermarket. But others in the group, mainly Mallory, they reject the idea. Hearing someone call for help, they end up opening a loaded truck door to let a man into the store. As the door opens, the birds begin to screech and flap their wings, which to them indicates that they can detect the creatures without actually seeing them. The man in the loading truck attacks the group as he's being controlled by the creatures in order to infect other humans. Charlie ends up sacrificing himself to save the others, who are unable to make it back safely to the house.
Wah.
Later, Lucy. I
Sorry.
know that was so lame. I mean,
Yeah.
I really do. I'm like, are y'all serious? Like, the way that they shot that scene
Yeah, it
with
was
Charlie
weird.
was so ridiculous, and there's no way he had to die in that situation. But
I
that
agree.
was,
It was a lame
yeah,
death. If you're going to make Charlie die, then for the love of God, make it decent.
yeah, it was just so corny. And to be honest with you, based off of the character Charlie that we were introduced to, that was so an un-Charlie like thing.
Seriously.
Yeah.
The guy who's writing apocalypse books should know never to let some dude come in, no matter if you know him or not. And you could tell that guy was off from the beginning the second you opened the door.
Yeah,
So,
well,
whatever.
so the others are able to make it back safely to the house, but two of the characters, Lucy and Felix, they basically just abandon everyone else
Take the
at the
car.
house without
Yeah.
any means of transportation. But whatever happened to those characters? Like what?
I don't
We
know.
don't know.
They died.
Yeah, that's they're like,
They
what the
never.
hell happened to Felix and Lucy after they stole the car?
Yeah, they
They
never.
just all up and disappeared, is what the question is.
Yeah.
Guess we're just supposed to just assume that they died. But to be honest with you, I thought that they would have been a couple of cool characters to keep around. But
Yeah.
okay, maybe the writers were just like, well, we
They
don't
can
really
only
have
have
shit for you anyway.
They can only have so many assholes in a house. It was Douglas took up enough room of the asshole card, so they were like, we gotta get
Yeah.
rid of these two.
That's one of those we don't have enough for you, and the budget just says you're just going to drive off.
Bye.
You're not going to come back. So soon thereafter, Olympia, who's a pregnant survivor, she lets in a wandering survivor, and this is one of those things that I really do believe has to be the ultimate no-no of just
Yeah.
letting
Yeah.
other people in. But the way that they developed the character of Olympia, and the way that she described it in the movie about she felt like what it was like to be out there,
Yeah.
it kind of softened my roll my eyes moment, because I'm like, yeah, I could totally see somebody, feeling that way. But also, I don't think that that's a thing that a pregnant woman should do without someone else,
In the room,
And
at
she
least.
was a self-professed dumbass. I mean, she said she was pampered and sheltered and spoiled, so this was definitely a hard test for her, hard for everybody. But when you're going through all of this and you're used to everybody fixing everything and taking care of you, she was very much aware of how she was that way and she was that type of person. So and then when she said that, I agree with you that she knew what it felt like to be out there on the other side of the door. And so You know,
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I can see it. I'm glad they explained it though, because
Yeah,
otherwise, I hate those
exactly.
movies that don't, and you're like, what, you stupid motherfucker, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And they effectively did it like in a sentence that
Right.
she said. So I thought that was great. So the wandering survivor who Olympia had compassion for and let in was a guy named Gary. After Gary was in, of course, Douglas protests. The group ends up locking up Douglas in the garage as punishment for him actually having the nerve to be like, why the fuck did you let this guy, in the house? I think that he totally got a raw deal.
Yeah.
But Gary ends up speaking of infected survivors who are insane and compelled to force unaffected human beings to look at the creatures. When both Olympia and Mallory go into labor, Gary reveals himself to be one of the insane people that he had described. And he had a lot of drawings, and he actually started sketching when he was in the house. And there were different looking things in each of the sketches. And I thought that just having speculation over are those the things that he is seeing, because the pictures are all over the place. None of them really looked exactly the same. I thought that was a great decision for them not to put the actual guy wearing the prosthetics in, just mainly because that kind of adds to people's imaginations of what these things are. So I thought that was kind of cool, but it was kind of expected though. With him attacking the survivors in the house, of course, he ends up proceeding to like remove all of the coverings from the windows to do the things that he was describing to them earlier that people were doing after they were infected, so to speak. Gary ends up murdering Douglas and forcing Olympia and another survivor to view the creatures, resulting in their immediate suicides. And let's also remember that Olympia earlier, when she was talking to Mallory, was saying that if anything happened to her, she wanted, Mallory to take care of the baby. But yeah, so
She knew she wasn't going to make it. I mean, she knew the type of person she was. I mean, again, like we just said, she was very much aware that this lady sitting next to her was like tough and hard and not, at all. She seemed a lot more with it and together and used to being on her own and can take care of shit. So I guess if I was going to leave my baby to somebody, that would be her. She chose wisely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Douglas. Yeah, I think Douglas definitely one of the people who got the biggest raw deal. But
Yeah, but is it just me or does John Malkovich always play assholes? Like I love him so
every
much.
damn
Why is
time.
he really an asshole and he's not
Grouchy
that
old
really
man.
that good of an actor, or is he that good of an actor and not really an asshole? That's what I want to know because I love him and I'm like,
I
why
think
is he
he's that
always an
good.
asshole?
I think he's probably just that good of an actor, though.
I hope
He's
so
definitely.
because I love him.
Been,
Con
I think one
Air,
of the
I
only
like
things.
another closet movie for me is Con Air, and he is the biggest dick on Con Air too. Well, he's a convict, so of course he is. But
I think one of the worst things though that I've seen him in was their attempt to do like the Blackbeard movie, TV series. I think it was on
Jesus,
NBC
I
or
missed
something.
that. Thank God.
I don't know if that was his fault or whatever, but that was pretty because it was going on during the time when Black Sails was going on,
Oh,
and there was
really?
like Black Sails is how pirates should really be done. But
Yeah.
whatever that show was, it flopped really badly. But
And I gotta apologize really quick, Yardley, but can we just take a moment to talk about the ultimate overall crazy hotness that Tom is and all he encompasses and his absolute eye
I wasn't going to let
candiness
us
of
not
the
take a moment on
entire
that. He
movie.
is so hot.
Holy
Yeah.
crap!
well, I mean, how did y'all feel about? Well, actually, we'll get into more of that in the reviews, but it was something that was in the article that Moni had posted, the 19 questions, and one of the things that actually made me laugh about it, he was talking about, man, how did you keep your hairline good and those
Oh,
waves
right,
popping?
right.
And I was like, maybe he got, beauty tips in the apocalypse from T-Dog from The Walking Dead, because like
That's
for
true.
3 seasons, his shaved head was just, it was perfect or whatever. But yeah, I'll give y'all time
Damn.
to rant about Tom.
Sandra Bullock was the picked right. That's all I'm gonna say. He is hot in this movie, and I know he's in Moonlight, and I've never seen the whole movie. I need to go back and watch it because I've heard it's amazing, and I just haven't. Shame on me. I haven't had the time to watch the whole movie, but but yeah, Annie's in The Predator, which tried to watch that the other day, a couple of weeks ago. It wasn't available. Hopefully, can't speak. It's available now because I am definitely ready to see another movie that he's in, and that's really all I'll say about
Well,
it.
my
Moni, you have
2-year-old
any
went
to
and
add?
bought Predator through the
Oh,
TV
nice.
the other day, so
Perfect.
I think it's available.
Darn.
So,
The newest one, really? Oh, good. I'm ready to watch it.
yeah. So
Anyway,
Tom
hot as hell.
manages to kill Gary and save Mallory and the two newborns, leaving all the other dead survivors in the house. Hey, do y'all think Tom was smashing her before she had that baby?
Nah.
Before she had the baby?
No.
I don't think so.
I don't think she was up for it just yet. She was kind of she wasn't open to, and I think she was like felt silly, like he was too young for her and all that.
Yeah, and now that I'm thinking about the timeline, because I forgot that they kind of flash forward 5 years. So yeah, y'all are right,
she's
because
stupid.
they were still yeah, because she started, because I think both of their waters dropped. Yeah, okay.
All at the same time.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, they were just doing a little kind of offhanded flirty thing.
So they flash forward, and you don't know how the hell they got where they got. So that was kind of, I wish they would have gone just a hair into their escape. Like, how long did they stay in that house before they left? I mean, there was dead bodies everywhere, but they have newborns, and I understand they can only do so much, but then how the hell did they end up at that other house? And all that was interesting to me.
Is how do you, it's like, how do you dispose of the bodies? Because you have to take them outside, all stuff. But anyway, that whole situation's a shit show. But we kind of flash forward 5 years, and at this point, we know that Tom and Mallory are a thing, and they're living together with the children, who Mallory calls only boy and girl. When they receive a transmission from a survivor stating that they're well and they have a safe community downriver, Tom wants to go.
Also, how did all the crazy people not hear the communication? Like, you would think they would follow it as well. Like all the people that we'll talk about in a minute that are trying to get you to look. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, continue. That bugs me.
But, transmissions, because I think once people, I have no idea, how I'm just saying that it definitely takes effort for you to find those transmissions. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think a lot of places have, those types of radio. I don't think, like, most communities, a lot of people don't have, like, emergency things like generator and those types of radios. So I think for the people who are prepared, which is probably not most people, those will be the people who are probably picking up on that. But but where was I? So Tom wants to go to the safe community, but Mallory fears it's a trap. Shortly after they picked up the transmission, Mallory flees with the two children when a group of infected survivors end up finding them in the house which they're hiding in, and they, of course, attempt to kill them. Tom manages to kill all of the infected, but sees the creature and shoots himself. And I was like, that's so lame.
Yeah.
But it's her fault, because he wanted to go and move on to find the space. And I understand her, like, fear that she doesn't know who Steven is or whoever the hell it is that's on the radio. But they had been hearing the cars for a while. They knew they were around. They should have had a game plan on escape, before. But she wouldn't do it. So I don't know. I mean, I just felt like these could have all been solved if she would have listened to him in the first place, and they would have got the hell out of there.
True.
Yeah, I think the conversation that you probably...
She definitely wore the pants in that family. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. The conversation that has to be had is, like, basically, what would the person on the radio have to gain by killing us or whatever when we get there, in which if we have to travel to get there, we're coming with nothing. So it's not like they're going to get money. It's not like they're going to get supplies. It's not like, you know what I mean? So
they would get them to see.
Yeah. And my whole thing is like, we got two kids here. We got to try. But,
absolutely.
Maybe Maybe that's me. But so Mallory decides they have to seek better shelter. Blindfolded, she takes the children, who are also blindfolded, of course, and the pet birds to a rowboat that's next to a river. Their journeys is harrowing and dangerous and long, which is like, that's one of the things that people are talking about too. 40
How do
hours.
you row for 40 fucking hours?
Yeah,
How
but
do you do that?
well, sometimes
Nobody can do that.
I think that the rapids will do their job as well, but you still have
Yeah.
to keep yourself from, hitting something on the side or whatever. But you're right; that's definitely a hell of a long time.
Yeah.
But it's a rough journey. After surviving a lot of raging rapids, an insane infected man ends ends up, of course, trying to like capsize them and do all of this thing. So they end up making landfall after killing him, and she walloped the hell out of his ass. I thought
Yeah,
that
she
was
did.
pretty. Yeah, that's the way
Yep.
to handle business.
I gotta say,
so-
like, I know we're kind of ripping on the whole how do you get through, but honestly, I think after 5 or 6 years of being blindfolded, like, I think your senses have to take over. Like, you learn how to navigate and survive and listen and follow, other senses to survive and figure out like this. Like, she knew how to find him. Of course, she was a sharp shot anyway, but I really didn't think, oh, this is crazy. She's on a river. Hey, listen.
No, it's just the rowing that I
Well,
was like,
true.
there's no way
But
if you're
I've-
not conditioned for that.
Oh yeah,
I've
Yeah.
been drunk on a river before with Yardley. Actually, we've been hella drunk on a river, and the river managed to take us just fine down without any navigational. We were
Exactly.
pretty much blind at the time.
Yep, exactly.
It's possible, I
yeah,
guess.
it's totally fucking possible.
I have a question for you guys, though, in
Uh-huh.
the middle of all this. Would you just, I know it's violent, but if you had someone to help you with the process as far as making sure you didn't bleed to death, it would be terrible. But would you just take your own eyes out at a certain point and kind of not have this problem anymore of having to see anything?
No.
I'm keeping my eyes.
Really?
No, because what if it ends
Okay.
and then I'm blind forever? Like, what if they
Yeah.
go away and everything's fine
And
again?
there's- But there's also no guarantee that your hearing and your senses are going to be any better than what
Yeah.
they were.
Yeah.
No,
I
I'm just
guess,
putting
like-
it out there because
Like, if you find somebody who makes you see, is what you're saying. I would, what I would have got? One of those, I would have made like contacts that you can't
There you
see.
go.
So I just put them in my eyeballs when I'm around, when I go outdoors or whatever, and then nobody can make me see because I got contacts in my eyeballs. I don't know.
gotcha. That's something that I just feel like there would have been more innovation in the thought process of something a little bit more high tech than a blindfold in a 5-year span is all.
Hockey mask or one of those, like
And-
put a mask on, or I don't know.
Well, and another twist of how many different things that these entities can do. One of the, with that guy, the entities were basically trying to tempt the children and Mallory to remove their blindfolds
Yeah.
by mimicking the voices of loved ones.
Yeah.
Unsuccessful, and they end up reaching the community. But it's like, how in the fuck do you even know who the fuck my family is? Entity, like it's too, you know what I mean? It's just kind of weird. Like, how does it know and know who's cool with who or what
Right.
would kind of make someone?
Well, I think because if they're a demon, the way that they think that's in that term, like a demon, they know the things that we, normal humans don't know. So if they're going on that as the premises of what these are in some weird way, yeah, I mean, they're aware of our consciousness and who we love and care about, just as much as they make you see people you love to kill yourself in the first place.
So I
Yeah.
wonder, are you y'all? So I wonder if there are things like the whole concept of them not being able to like just come in the house, even though I believe that Gary had said, I thought that he said that they had gotten in the house or something that he was
Yeah.
able. Maybe he was talking about them getting in, so to speak, when
Well,
they
they
had the
got,
blind-
they
or
got, they were, I'm assuming
mentally
Gary.
ill.
Gary
something?
was the mentally ill
Oh.
part of the mentally ill
Mhm.
people that escaped,
Mhm.
but he was pretending like he was actually somebody that was in the house that got attacked by the mentally ill people that made them look. But my assumption is that he was actually a part of the mentally ill crew that went in, that broke into the house that he was pretending he was from, and put their clothes on or whatever. That's kind of what I got from all that. And so I think the mentally ill people see these things and it doesn't bother them because they're crazy and mentally ill and sick in the head, and they actually like it enough. Like, it doesn't make them want to kill themselves. It makes them want everybody to see to kill themselves or join the crowd. And so that's kind of what I got from that. It was bizarre. That it was an interesting twist that I thought they threw in there, that some people see it and are okay and they're off their fucking rockers. So
that would be my fucking luck. Is I am surrounded. God bless them. I'm proud to work at a place where it's the great equalizer and everybody can be there. But I am surrounded by mentally ill all day, every day, including my children. Oh wait, did I say that out loud? What I'm talking about at the library, and that would be my fucking luck. Is this would start, and they would be like, "Hey, Moni, we need you to help us with this computer," and I wouldn't know what was going on, and then I would look, and that'd be the end of that.
And they'd be like, "See, Moni, see."
My luck.
And one of the interesting.
I'm screwed because they kind of look and walk and talk like zombies or move like zombies, and this situation, I'm screwed too. So.
Well, what do y'all think about this? One of the situations in this movie, before we close out this summary, is, one of the reasons why she calls the kids boy and girl. Different people have their own thoughts behind why that is. Of course, looking at the character of Mallory, I think it was kind of a way for her to kind of stay detached from those kids.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest highlights of the movie, or one of the biggest moments for a revelation on their own character for Mallory, was when the little girl ends up running off. And, she ends up catching up with girl, and of course, she's not as hard as she had been on her earlier, because I personally do think that she realized that she ended up being a monster that was so scary to Mallory that she literally ran away from her without concern for the the real monsters that were out there. So I thought that was a very cool moment.
Yeah, and there was during the journey, in the rowboat. In the movie, it's pieced by piece as the movie progresses. So as the movie's progressing and you understand who Mallory is as a person, you also begin to get that those two kids, one of them is hers and one of them isn't hers. And when she starts to say that one of them's going to have to take their blindfold off and the boy volunteers, and she goes, "I decide